For 4 years, 33-year-old Kevin Ajibo, a resident of Olep village in Ochera Town Council in Kabaramaido district, woke up every day feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders, despondent, confused, widowed, and landless. After the death and burial of her husband in 2020, Ajibo's in-laws terrorized her of her matrimonial home, claiming that the property belonged to their deceased brother and that customarily they are the legitimate beneficiaries. The entire community was behind her brothers-in-law.
They came in the dead of the night. They dragged me out of the house and the children and razed down the house. There was no one to help.
She, however, did not give up the fight. Ultimately, her area LC1 assisted her for the matter to be reported to police, where she was referred to a local NGO which assisted her with legal aid at the Soroti High Court, which ruled in her favor this year.
They claimed that the property was for their deceased brother and that women, according to customs, cannot own land on property. It was a tormenting time as we battled in court for a very long time.
While Ajibo regained her land, where she is currently attempting to rebuild both a new house and a life, her experience bears parallels of many women dispossessed of land as a result of customary practices and the long time courts take to dispose particularly land cases.
The Land Act also re-emphasizes that any cultures or biases that are against women and children or people living with disability are null and void. The Land Act provides for spousal consent, provides for protection of family land. It also provides for ownership of land generally, so people can own land as individuals or in association with others. However, amidst that, we are seeing a lot of failure to actually provide especially justice in terms of conflict when there are disputes.
The practice now that is influenced by patriarchy, that is influenced by social norms and practices, that now leads us into not actualizing what the Constitution provides for. And basically that is equality when we are talking about asset ownership, land being one of the assets.
We have chaos in the arena of land. In the 30 years, we have had an alarming rate of landlessness in our country, and that poses a security threat. It has led to a surge in rural-urban migration and congested cities, slums. So the journey on the question of land has also been unsatisfactory.
Across parts of Teso to the northeast, as across parts of northern Uganda, land is communally owned, which comes with its attendant challenges, according to the National Land Policy, including not providing security of tenure for landowners and impeding the advancement of land markets and discriminates against women. The Ministry of Lands further indicates that customary tenure is the predominant land tenure system in Uganda, accounting for 80% of land in Uganda. According to Benjamin Odoki Constitutional Commission report, land was viewed by the people as a vital natural resource and common heritage which cannot be matched by any other natural resource. Ownership of land by individual, family or community confers real or potential wealth, social prestige, and a sense of economic security. Population growth continues to put a great deal of pressure on land, and hence the need to look at the land issue very carefully, the report reads in part. During the Odoki consultations, according to the report, some of the concerns raised over land included land grabbing by the rich and the powerful, fear of foreigners taking over land, too much centralization of land administration, and corruption in land office, with the process of acquiring land titles riddled with corruption at every stage. The Constituency Assembly that debated the Constitution ultimately settled on 4 land tenure systems: customary, which is governed under terms of certain groups of people; leasehold, which is time-factored to certain conditions; freehold, which is ownership in perpetuity; and Milo, where a registered owner holds title to the land in perpetuity, but tenants have protected user rights over the land.
I said this is an opportunity to remove the inequity which colonialism brought and independence governments not addressed. And for me, I was going further and saying, you know what? This thing of Milo land, Bibanja holders, you have a Milo title, 3 square miles. You cannot even till 1 inch, square inch of that land because it is occupied by Bibanja holders. You will die without tilling it. Your grandchildren, until the return of Jesus, will never till that, the Bibanja holders. If they have to pay you, they pay a token. So for me, I said, let us use the 1995 Constitution to put provisions where we get rid of this thing called Bibanja in Buganda. Get the funds, pay off the paper owner of the land, whatever the value of the papers are, and then enable now each of these Bibanja holders to get a title which is in perpetuity. You can still maintain the name Milo, meaning you are a Bibanja holder, now you have your Milo. You can call it freehold, you can call it whatever name. While for us, where there was no Milo, the only thing you need to do is take away public lands from lands of the ordinary person, restrict it to certain areas. And we succeeded in that. And by the stroke of a pen, on the 8th of October 1995, the rural lands in Tororo, the rural lands in anywhere, ceased to be public land.
Article 237 of the Constitution vested ownership of all land to the citizens of Uganda and shall vest them in accordance with the land tenure systems provided. Some critics have argued variously that the proclamation is both empowering and problematic. Article 238 established the Uganda Land Commission to manage any land acquired by the government. Article 240 established the district land boards, while Article 245 details protection of land for preservation of the environment. 30 years later, nearly all the problems raised by the Ojoki Commission persist, while others have grown in breadth and scope, especially with the Milo system and the customary setting which the Land Act of 1998 introduced conversion of the tenure to freehold. This as gazetted land for protection of environment such as natural forests and forest reserves and swamps are grossly encroached and reclaimed for settlement or commercial use with impunity. Karo Kayanja, the program associate at the NGO Uganda Community-Based Association for Child Welfare, UCOBAC, which is currently leading the Stand for Her Land campaign on enhancing land administration to support women's land rights, said the land question remains a headache.
We organize a lot of meetings, a lot of conferences, and we talk about the land question, and we never get to solutions. And I think for me, we need to be as bold as possible as we can be to say that we need to really address the issue of Mayo land as a country. And we know the solution. The solution was provided to us in the Land Act of the Land Fund.
While the 1995 Constitution provisions on land have been domesticated into other provisions, the weak institutions and corruption in land offices have aggravated the situation.
And more weak institutions as a country. And I think for me, the failure to strengthen systems and institutions to work independently so that people can be able to access services, so that people can be able to access justice on time, is a failure to us.
Dr. Doreen Kobisinje, also a lecturer at Makerere University, argues that wherever there is a land crisis or dispute, women and vulnerable groups are affected more.
In Uganda, only around 16% of women own land. That is, women that have documents that can prove ownership. And whereas the Constitution is clear that men and women are equal, the practice is different. And this can be attributed to so many things. this can be attributed to the customary law, what we can talk about as norms and practices of people and how they impact society.
There is general consensus that land remains one of Uganda's unresolved questions and a potential tinderbox in light of the historical colonial policies and the country's growing population of 45.9 million as per the last census and the deteriorating rule of law which has allowed impunity to thrive.
I think we have failed still as a country to resolve this impasse between tenants and between with landlords. The issues coming from the provisions like the nominal ground rent that has to be paid, which is considered very small by landlords, but also how people become tenants. The public or the tenants themselves do not know who actually, or the definition of the lawful tenant and the definition of the bona fide tenant, and the confusion with taking for granted the provision of the 12 years before coming into force of the 1995 land constitution.
Whoever has money will accumulate a lot of land, regardless of who is left landless. We are seeing corruption in systems. We are seeing politics in systems. And over time, the systems have failed to work and the institutions are really not financed and weak. But we also know that land ownership, access and control is governed by perceptions and norms.
Add to a cocktail of issues from absentee landlords, insecure land rights for tenants, evictions, and generally conflict over land in nearly all pockets of the country.
Question of land, we have learned to our detriment that having land purely in the hands of the people can actually sabotage development. Now, when the government is not strong on development issues, it cannot invoke those clauses about determining land use. Ideally, even if land belongs to the people, the government should determine land use through planning. But the government seems to be too weak to enforce planning codes.
The land question is at best a political question, which explains why each government, from Obote to Amin to Museveni, attempted reforms, albeit with varying successes. Finding technical solutions for land ownership is not enough for securing land rights. So, what could be the solution?